So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the March uh, session for us to talk about how to manage communications across multiple parish sites. So this is a continuation of a topic that we began last month, and we're very committed to continuing these conversations over the subsequent months on the first Fridays for these Christ Coffee and communications sessions. And every quarter we'll kind of turn over the topic. So this first quarter of the year, we're really focused on how to manage communications across multiple sites, multiple parishes. And last month, we had Molly Judd from our team join us, and she shared about her experience working with a couple of parishes that had reached out to us at KPC. And this month, we have Father Tom Pistorius and Liz Henning, who are going to talk to us about their parish. So if you don't know, Liz is a part of the KPC team, but is also employed at a parish as well. And so she's embedded and really experiencing this firsthand. And so she is going to guide our conversation. And I know, Father Tom, you're going to participate as well and share with us just some of your learnings, best practices, and things that we should keep keep in consideration. So from there, I'm going to pass it to Liz and let you kind of do an introduction of the parishes and the community there, and take off from there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having us and for the opportunity to have this conversation. Father Tom and I, as we were prepping last night, talked a little bit about the metaphor that we come back to time and time again. And that's the idea that in working to build these systems while also maintaining existing parish life, it's a little bit like replacing the parts of an airplane engine while you're mid-flight. So it's possible, but it's precise, and it takes a process and discipline, and you have to go more slowly than you would if you were beginning something from the ground up, or maybe you would in a way that if something were brand new or you were starting from scratch. So but what was funny was we had this conversation at the end of the day yesterday, and then I went home, and last night I was reading a biography about Amelia Earhart, which is called Fly Girls, and it's fantastic. But it's about women women in aviation in the 20s. And the very first line of the book is, in 1927, there were a lot of ways to die in an airplane. And it talked about the mechanics were so complex, and the mechanization of flight was changing so rapidly that it wasn't just about flying the plane, it was about learning all this new tech as you were learning to fly and doing it successfully, and then doing it for fun. And that it takes a special it's special love of adventure and a special love of the turbulence to want to jump into this. So it brought a new dimension to our conversation about the really exciting things that are happening in trying to build a model that serves communication well across both parishes, while celebrating the things that make the parishes unique, and then figuring out where can we save time, where can we save energy, and where can we save the human resources and the physical resources to work together and really deliver the best experience for people at both places. So I work at two parishes, are served by one pastor and one PLT, and for the most part, one staff. And that's Epiphany of our Lord and St. James the Greater. So in St. Louis, just for our friends further afield, Epiphany of our Lord was established in 1911. It's in South St. Louis. It's about 20% of the resident population is Catholic. The parishioners, there's about 1,200 parishioners registered. And then at St. James the Greater, which is the next geographic area over, the parish boundaries butt up against Epiphany, but then also include the Forest Park area. So the Zoo Museum District, Science Center, a lot of green space in the community and in St. Louis. So and then in that area, it's a rising population for renters and young people. Only 11% of the population is self-identified Catholic, and it's a popular destination for people like who are at Washington University in St. Louis, maybe doing a residency, or maybe they're here for just a few years, to come and embed and really be part of the community, or postdoc studies, that kind of thing, but then move on and see where life takes them from there. So there's an opportunity to serve people who are coming from really different walks of life and areas of life. And if you know the geography of St. Louis, Father Tom likes to say, we serve everyone from Forest Park to Ted Drew's. So it's a swath of South City with a really a long history and a vibrant identity. And so at Epiphany, I think Epiphany is one of the last Epiphany has one of the last operating Catholic bowling alleys in St. Louis. I think it's the last one. Is that right? Started in 1949. So we have everything from, and then this morning, St. James the Greater in the Dogtown neighborhood is the historically Irish community. And as we say, KPC is sort of, we have Irish heritage too with Katie O'Brien Pesha. So with St. Patrick's Day coming up in about 10 days, we have a barrage of tours of people who want to come and experience just the neighborhood. They walk around, they have little walking tours, and then they come to church for a tour and then move on with the rest of their day. So there's a really unique opportunity to welcome in a lot of people who are from throughout the country, but also maybe from St. Louis, or there will be retiree groups that come through that maybe just haven't come down or had the opportunity to come through the church and the parish and the church. So it's a really unique combo of these two parishes. And I think, as Father Tom said, he said it's the kind of thing only the Holy Spirit would come up with, really truly. But in prayerfully considering taking on leadership and ownership of these two parishes from a communication standpoint, Father Tom talks about in his discernment and in his prayer life that there was this connection that kept coming up for him. And that's this idea that the Magi were seeking Christ, and they followed the star to seek the Christ child and to find the new king. And then St. James the Greater had a transformative experience with Christ through his time living with him, and then he went forth to share the gospel. So the Magi were transformed by this encounter and went home changed. They went home in a different way, changed. And St. James the Greater, through that experience, goes forth to spread the gospel. So you really need both of these parishes as anchors in the community. And you need both of sides of this story, that we need to be able to seek Christ and then go share his gospel. So that gave rise to a lot of prayerful thought work in developing the messaging about how were we going to talk about these two parishes that were coming together as sister parishes, and we wanted them to work together, but we weren't sure exactly what's the connection, how do these two pieces fit together. So through that prayer experience that's truly divinely inspired, we have this way of talking about the parishes as both being connected to the experience of encountering Christ. And so we want both of these parishes to be places where people can seek Christ and then go forth and share his gospel. So that's not to say everybody at Epiphany is looking and everybody at Epiphany at St. James is fully equipped to go forth, but those ideas permeate the messaging in both places. So some of the ways that we can share that the messaging among and between the two parishes. Right now, we've just entered the holy season of Lent on Wednesday. And so this is your reminder, since it's the first Friday of Lent, don't eat meat today by accident. Don't pack a hot dog for your kid like I did, but it's fine. She's 6. So, so have a, with the first, the first Friday of Lent, we have one thematic direction for Lent across two parishes, and all the activities and events are all under the message of hope. So we talk about our hope in Christ's cross and our hope in the resurrection, the life of the world to come. So everything that's happening between, we have fish fries, we have a Bible study group that Father Tom is leading Thursday mornings. We have special devotions that are happening in both places. All of those are collected into one place on our website, and it's all under the framework of hope, and it's the hope in Christ's cross. So this means that we can develop the messaging one time, and of course that's rooted in the Jubilee year of Pilgrims of Hope. So we take that, and Father Tom's dog is named Hope. So so hope is essential to our community here, but that lets us create one umbrella of messaging and then tailor each of the individual activities and events under that shared messaging. So we had a family reconciliation, or we have a family prayer service on Wednesday night to be able to say, come and make your resolutions, your Lenten resolutions as a family. And we look forward with hope. We'll have other events for families. We'll have other events through this holy season unified with that single message. So that's one place where it's unified. A place I think where we lean into the distinctiveness is to say, obviously, St. Patrick's Day here at St. James the Greater, and then the fish fries at Epiphany. The fish fries at Epiphany are relatively legendary in that region and community. So instead of saying, well, we have to do the same things at both places and talk about it the same way and make sure everybody has equal airtime, we want to make sure we lean into those moments that are distinctive to the community and really celebrate those, and then invite people from the sister parish over to be part of that. One of my favorite playwrights is Oscar Wilde, and in The Importance of Being Earnest, he has two characters talking about two women, Gwendolyn and Cecily, if you know the show. So Gwendolyn's in town and Cecily's in the country. And when we talk about sister parishes, and I'm one of three girls, so I have two sisters. When we talk about sister parishes, there's this great line from The Importance of Being Earnest where Jack says about these two women, he says, well, I bet they'll be calling each other sister in a half an hour. And the other character on stage says, oh, women only call each other sister after they've called each other a lot of other things first. And so that deep appreciation of the differences coming together is part of what makes it a joy and a challenge to work with both of these places. So we truly do have sister parishes, and part of that is it making continuous invitations among and between parish boundaries that for some people, they grew up with sort of a healthy competition mindset. And so inviting people to share and celebrate what makes us unique, and then that's not something precious to be guarded, but that's a gift to enjoy and offer to everybody else in our community concurrently. So so that's sort of the spiritual shape of our landscape. As far as just some practical, I know we want to get into tactical best practices. We have a couple of things we do that I think have really made a big difference. And that is, we have a weekly leadership compass that goes to both parishes, and I actually have a copy that's, of course, just out of reach. But I mean, this is sort of our Bible for the weekend. It's a one-pager. It's a leadership compass. It goes out every Friday. And because we know our staffs share time between both campuses on the weekend, it is who's celebrating Mass, what the important events are, what the important announcements are, anything that's coming. It's all hyperlinked to the content that's on our website or individual internal documents as needed. And this comes out on Friday afternoon. So we've really reshaped how we think about the week. The week doesn't start on Monday. Friday is our Monday. So Friday is the day of the week we get the compass, which is our orientation to the weekend. And then we're ready to go so that anybody who is on the leadership team or staff knows who's celebrating Mass, any special blessings, any special events, any special activities. And then they also have that link out to any additional information that they might need within that critical information. And that's really key, to have something that's quick and that's easy. So as far as the composition of that one, Father Tom does the priest scheduling, because we have two visiting priests from St. Louis University who often come and are part of that, part of celebrating Mass. Are they both from SLU? I just realized I said that. I think they both, yeah, that's what I thought. So he prepares that schedule and then arranges that with the deacons. I'm responsible for anything marketing and promotions wise that's happening from a communication standpoint. And then he also has some notes from leadership and a prayer for the week. So like the prayer for the week is going to be the same thing as we are in a year of prayer. The prayer for the week is going to be the same content that appears in the e-news, for example, and is part of the weekly message. But the pieces of it are the prayer for the week, a note from the pastor, mass notes, and other notes. And I can send a PDF sample of what this looks like. But that becomes our agenda for the weekend and the week. Then we have Saturday, Sunday. We've got staff presence at Mass on Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, we live stream our Masses on Sunday morning. And then we do, and then come Monday, there's Monday is sort of recap day, and then on Tuesday we have our PLT. So in our PLT, our parish leadership team meeting, that's at 1:15 on Tuesday. We look at what went well, what could be improved. Do we have everything we need to be a disciple and to make a difference? And then, yes, I will absolutely send a PDF of that. Any particular staff members we need to recognize, parishioners we need to recognize, and then making sure everybody is set and well equipped. So we had some great opportunities to assess some of our longer term best practices. Like we were trying to develop the documentation for what's our snow policy. Okay, who makes that call? When does the text message go out? When does the e-news go out? As we were working to iron that out, the PLT became a great point because here in St. Louis, we had lots of opportunities for that through January and February to assess, gosh, this was great, but it would be great if the e-news, if as soon as we make that decision, send the text first just so people know it's canceled and then do the e-news the next morning or something, if you're not able to do everything all at once. So it became a place to not just address the tactical issues, but use those tactical issues and moments to shape what becomes our best practices and policy. And then that documentation is set, drafted, current as of February 24th, and then we take it forward and we'll reassess when it snows again, which I really hope doesn't happen yet again in 2025. The next piece is making sure that we've got clear, just well-ordered communication. And this really breaks down, and I'll send just a copy of this, a sample of this breaks down what's time sensitive, what's a seasonal message, what's a seasonal campaign, and then what's just generic promotions. So deciding early on, what kind of message is this? Now, we had a whole lot that was in the red column of this is time sensitive and we need everybody to know we're canceling the Radiant Light Women's Group run by the Daughters of Charity tonight. But making sure that we've got clear understanding of how important or not important something is, and how urgent or not urgent something is. And some of that kind of gets into a little bit of the work we're doing with ministries to say, here's everything, to be proactive in going to them and saying, here's everything we have on our calendar, on our schedule for your group. First of all, is this accurate? And then here's how we're going to talk about it. And then here's where you can expect to see the promotions in all of our parish channels for leading up to this particular event. So then that schedule helps shape our weekly flock note. So the flock note also goes out on Friday and is a preview of the next 10 days. So we really work in promoting kind of a discipleship model. So we have our pastor, we have our Peter, James, and John crew, and then that schedule helps inform the e-news that looks out at the next 10 days, and then that goes to everybody in both parishes. And then from there, we have our website, which is our digital ministry space that's going to serve both of the parishes in this area, and is also a place where if you get a request or an inquiry from a group that's, we partner with Lindenwood Area Senior Ministry that helps provide a lot of support for residents and parishioners in our neighborhood that help with like doctor's appointments. They have social meetups. They will do trips, rides to doctor's offices, that kind of a thing, like lunch and learn, coffee meetups, potlucks. And that's a place where in our digital ministry space, we can highlight more of their work and help push more of that information out to say, here's a lunch and learn about how do you declutter. And this was a great one. I'm gonna take my mom to it. It's like, how do you declutter sentimental things where you keep the meaningful things, but then get ready, start to unload some of this other stuff. And I say that lovingly because my mother for Christmas gave me a box of my report cards from high school, which was a great gag gift for Christmas. So, but having that space dedicated to say, we can really be flexible about who and what we highlight in the news feed of a digital ministry space. So, and making sure that they all work together. We have we have a fully integrated approach where we have hard copies. I was hanging up St. Patrick's Day kickoff to St. Patrick's Day posters in bars yesterday afternoon. Um, and then so we've got hard copies, we have things that we hand out physically at our ambassador station at both places, and then we've got a digital strategy that supports that. But all of those pieces work together. And I think the biggest thing we've learned, and that Father Tom has been very helpful in coaching myself and the team on, is that we're not going to get everything right every single time. People get sick, weather happens, there will be I think that there was one week I missed sending an e-news, and I think I thought he was going to fire me, being an anxious millennial. But I was like, I can't, like, we didn't get this out this week. And he's like, great, let's just work on next week's. Like, just let it go and work on next week's. And so there are going to be opportunities for meeting different needs that are going to be more important than the process. And so it's the gift of discernment is in figuring out when do you keep plowing through because you said you were going to do it, versus when do we come together as a team and make a judgment about this is really where we need to focus our time and energy and attention. And that's really been it's a great team to be part of. And really the investment in the team. We went to the amazing parish conference in San Antonio this past year and had a great time. And it was especially really a wonderful time in that I grew much closer to the business manager, Crystal, just because we were rooming together. And, and she's not Catholic, but was coming into the Catholic world. And then we had a great opportunity for growth in prayer together in that particular way. And then we're all working from the same core playbook. So everybody comes with different experience of ministry, of management, of corporate. We've got a really interesting blend of experience levels on the team, but having the PLT all share these same core amazing parish formation moments. And then we've got some ongoing work we're doing with the management of mission book, just making sure everybody has the same shared definition. And my background is in 16th century non-dramatic British literature, but in that they talk about a definition of something, a dictionary for something, and a lexicon. So a dictionary is the current definition. The lexicon is a glossary of terms with the definition that we have all agreed to share for the purposes of talking about Shakespeare or Condell or Kit Marlowe. So having a shared lexicon among a team is really key to building understanding about how long things take, what the priorities are, and how we shape everything in our day-to-day conversation. So that when we say, okay, we're going to do an event, or we're going to do a particular initiative around an event, like we're going to do a big push for Easter at St. Patrick's Day, saying, because we're going to have people naturally just coming to the parish who are community members but don't necessarily have a connection to a faith home. We'll do a big push about Easter at St. Patrick's Day, but we all have a shared definition of what that means. So I mean, would we like to open it up for questions? Oh, Katie's got her hand up, and I think she's messaging me while I've been talking away. So
No, you're fine. I know I
yeah.
messaged you and I'm like, she's not going to see this because she's talking. I was just wondering, so I think there's something that I've encountered working and talking with other parishes and other parish communicators is the struggle to know what level of priority to give all the things that are coming at you. And so I know like an e-newsletter could easily become like another bulletin. It can get really messy. How do you, so I'm just curious if I was wondering if maybe you could show how you're differentiating the different messaging. So I know you showed the chart that you said you'll share of how we kind of break out what bucket it falls into, but
Yes,
just for the sake of helping others to kind of clarify, this is something that's of high level priority that should go in the e-newsletter, but maybe you only highlight a core set of things, not everything that's in the
Oh,
bulletin.
yeah.
And then what does your digital ministry space look on the website? So I've seen your e-news and I think it's nice and clean. I didn't know if maybe
Okay.
you could screen share that and maybe share how you discern through how to prioritize all the stuff because there's just a lot, particularly when there's more than one parish.
Absolutely. Yes. And give me just one second. I'm going to pull up just one of the teaching tools that we use as well in understanding how each of these pieces come together.
Mhm.
So let me pull that up as well, because I think that will help. That will help too with we call it the field of dreams phenomenon, where it's like if you build it, they will come. If you put it in the bulletin, people will show up. Not true.
Well, and
Charitably.
while you're pulling
So
that
Father
up,
Tom, actually, as I pull that up, could you talk a little bit about your experience in leading one team, two parishes, just and the help and support you give us, because I feel like you are incredibly open as a pastor to us pushing back on ideas or initiatives, on really genuinely valuing our experience and our opinion. So can you talk a little bit about that as I pull up this chart?
Sure. Um, First, I kind of got addicted to leadership books over through COVID. So I read a lot of different things from Jocko Willink to Patrick Lencioni to Simon Sinek and all. And I think the most important thing they talk about is the need for a team that can trust each other and share with each other, and that conflict is healthy because you come up with the best solution instead of just blindly going forward with your idea. And all. To use the Netflix example, Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix and chose not to because they didn't want to give up 12% of their revenue, which was in late fees. And we all know Blockbuster is no longer here, and Netflix is. So trying to manage in a sense of getting the best out of everybody and having everyone share their opinions in a safe environment helps me from being target fixated and everything. A couple other things I wanted to mention is I think it's good no matter what position you are, if you what Jocko Willings calls manage up. And so Liz will let me know what she's doing without me asking, and she'll show me different things and all because there's just so much that goes on. And all I had to step off for just a moment because the preschool director was calling for another issue and everything. So I can go through the day without thinking Liz has done anything. But when I get an email, I can say, "Oh yeah, she's been really working hard and everything." Especially with the two parish site. I can be at one site all day and not see Liz, but she could be in the office from 9 to 5 or whatever, and all. And that's the same with the rest of the staff. I think it's also important to realize that we priests don't have any education in marketing or in communications or any of this. And so sometimes we need things to be broken down very simple. And what's common sense for you guys in your field is not so common in our idea. Um, what was the other thing I have here?
And to that point about the managing up and sharing multi-site things, the other thing I want to really be sure to call out and highlight about this that has made a transformative difference in me, frankly, wanting to take this role and stay in this role is the amount of flexibility that the pastor, Father Tom, has shown and continues to show week in and week out. So I'm a mom of a 6-year-old who just started karate. So there is a core expectation that there are things that are not missed, and that is the Sunday experience, the streaming, our PLT. I mean, illness, of course, and extenuating circumstances like weather, but there are sort of platinum events in a week that are essential. And then there are um, kind of the gold standard of like, here are my office hours in a given week for the most part that are held. And some of the times, like on Thursdays, I go up and see Kara every third Thursday for the evangelization PLT, which is part of those office hours. But other than that, there's a tremendous amount of flexibility that he extends to the staff to be able to go pick my kid up and take her to karate, hence talking about the karate. She's a white belt. But it's really important for me as a mom to be able to do that and to be there on the sidelines of her karate class when she like finally manages to like land a kick or a blow, and then go home, get her set up for dinner and homework, turn her over to her dad, and then come back here to the office or go down to my office in the basement and finish up the work that needs to be done in a way that's kind of asynchronous to the rest of a workday. And that has made such a huge difference, I think, for all the staff in our energy and enthusiasm. Now, we do have two staffers who are locked into kind of business hours, and they're the front of house people when somebody calls. But we've also been able to, we know, like I know Trish works Monday, Tuesday. I know Aaron works on and he'll work on Wednesday, Thursday. I know Ashley's here in the mornings, Monday through Friday. But having that flexibility in 2025 is critical. Is just I really is really critical.
I'd also, add the idea too that as a priest, as a pastor, there are multiple issues always going on. And so communications might not be the top issue for me at the moment because, like I said, I got to deal with this preschool issue and everything because that actually involves a kid and everything and probably some legal issues now and everything. So I like it when I can say to Liz, okay, I hear this, but that's got to be on the back burner right now because I got to take care of this. And I can also trust that she's able to do the job. And so we have to also manage our own expectations. And I think one of the problems here is we both want to move faster than we can, and everything. We want to move people quicker to our way of thinking or out of old habits into new habits. And people can be stubborn and slow and not want to grasp the new technology or the new way of doing things. And so we have to sometimes walk with them. A couple of real quick things I think are positive that we kind of stumble upon. We give each parish their own identity, and that comes across in some of our color coding. So if you see something green, it's the St. James thing. If you see something red, it's Epiphany. And if you see something blue, it's for both parishes. And also, even my letterhead that Liz has designed, I have three different letterheads. St. James, Epiphany, and then the staff. And then name tags are the same way and everything. So you see somebody with a blue name tag is most likely a staff person who's going back and forth and all. And that, I think, helps people and all, especially when they start going between different events and they're like, oh, you're from Epiphany, thanks for coming. Or you're from St. James, thanks for coming. One of the things I think is important is each website, we kept the old website addresses, but we forwarded them to the new one. So people think they're going to stjames.org or whatever, and they're still going, they end up getting forwarded to. So it gives them a sense of identity, and then they kind of sneakily reminds them that we're all together and everything. And then just one thing I thought of this morning too is I think we discovered that metal screens that you can get from Home Depot make great bulletin boards that if you want to set something out. So if you go to our ambassador station, we have these metal room divider screens, and we're able to put magnets on it and stick our important paperwork for us on there, and it doesn't end up being confused with the latest Knights of Columbus poster or whatever handout or whatever. So being able to move them around too, I think also is very helpful.
Well, let me jump over and share our digital ministry space here. And then we can just take a look at that. This is the shared website for among and between both parishes. So we have key sliders that highlight essential events. Now, of course, this will change out. 2 weeks ago, it was a snowstorm with inclement weather closings, but we always have Encounter Epiphany and Journey with St. James as part of the crawl at every point in time. So we have individual tabs for each parish, but other than that, everything about the team, do I belong here, join our parish, grow in grace, masses, staying connected. These are all shared resources. So there's kind of no sense in having two different leadership pages. We've got one single one and the bio and information about each person there. We do talk about, if somebody's on site at one place or another. This is Hope. She's our project manager. And one of the things that lets us do is this is a digital ministry space that's not designed for internal audiences. So this is about welcome, discover Jesus, our neighborhood, where we are. So we've just generated this map. This is designed for people who might be coming to encounter it for the first time. It's not designed for people who are already in and connected to the parish. And that's a really intentional decision. Part of what we also work to do, and I think this is a great moment because we have different levels of admins and permissions. So we have like inclement weather alerts, the stewardship report. But I logged on one morning, I was like, okay, this is new. And it was a funeral and obituary announcement. And I just shot a note over and I said, well, who's doing this? So it was somebody who was key to the parish at St. James, and it was our funeral information that was coming up. But at Epiphany, the best practice was to put funeral announcements on the Facebook page. But then at St. James, we didn't really have that practice, so it was put on the website. So when these little burrs crop up of saying, oh, okay, that's not our branding and it's not instead of saying, well, who did this and why didn't you follow process? Like, well, we don't have a process for funerals and how we talk about that, but we can stream funerals and we know that's a great opportunity. So why don't we add that to that doesn't fit into one of our 4 channels. So how do we develop a process that fits that? So it's like, great, when somebody calls to schedule a funeral, say, do you want this? Can we share this information with the parish? We have the opportunity to invite people to come and pray with the deceased, it gave rise to a bigger ministry moment that we would not have necessarily identified if the kind of quirk of, well, where the heck this come from on the website didn't pop up. The events and celebrations. So the news is a news feed for both parishes. Events and celebrations, everything that happens appears on the homepage in several key places. But then if you just want the events at Epiphany, that's under Epiphany. If you just want the events at St. James, that's under St. James. So people can kind of self-select and kind of curate their experience of how much or little information they want to have. And then for seasons, we have seasonal landing pages for Advent and Lent, and then Easter and the Christmas season. In that, we have a key message, and we really unify our messaging around these 2 key evangelization points. So this is also designed for somebody who is not a Catholic audience about, well, where's a fish fry? The question might be, why would I need a fish fry? Why can't I have a cheeseburger on Friday? And so the messaging in this that Father Tom has developed really begins at the baseline of we're loved by God. And no matter what we do, we're loved beyond measure by God. And so that messaging then gets into some of our special like Lenten projects of the ones at Epiphany, the ones at St. James, and the ones at both parishes. And that, of course, is the Rice Bowl. I think it's the 50th anniversary. And then there's a Lenten calendar that highlights all of the individual things that are happening. Now, this is just an RSS feed pulled straight from the calendar. But we can also code in things. Family adoration is something that happens in general on the 4th Friday at Epiphany. We can code that into Lent because we know in that Lenten season, maybe families are making resolutions to pray together more. So this is not something, as you can see, it's not branded for Lent, but it's something we can pull in as something that's good and that's helpful to people. So as we look at all of these upcoming events, it creates an opportunity for people and families to really curate their experience and have it shared together in a way that they can really explore it explore it for themselves. So for example, if you wanted, here's everything that's happening on Ash Wednesday, whether it's specifically a mass time or not, because we're looking to package and pair up kind of 2 and 3 things as we look at our pathway for people, that we have a season, we have somebody who might be curious, who might be interested, but then we want to be sure we kind of shape that path into like, here's your next step, here's where you can go next. One of the big things that I think has been meaningful is these covenant nights. And so these are 12 month, this is every Sunday, or I'm not every Sunday, sorry, every month on a Sunday evening. And we come together, we have doors open, a potluck dinner at 5:30, and then the parish provides the entree for that. There's 6 o'clock childcare begins and the adult session begins. We pray, we discern and pray together for about an hour, and then close at 7:30 with a shared communal prayer. That has really grown into some really strong small groups. So this is kind of the beginning of our small group community as we're working to launch that. So we just celebrated our first anniversary there. As far as the e-news, Katie, to get into that sample, looking at our dashboard, you all get to see the inside of the guts of our flock note. We have different different groups that are organized by affinity groups. So we can say, okay, we just want to talk to all of the women in the Radiant Lights women's groups. A lot of times that's going to be this is canceled due to inclement weather, and this was a text message that went out. But we have Covenant Night attendees, and then within the Covenant Night attendees, we have the individual, it's grouped by individual small group. So we have all of our Covenant Night attendees, everybody who registered and comes on a regular basis. And then we break it down by individual groups. So for example, in December, we were sending all of these out as with the individual prayer intentions, but it's branded along the lines of what they're going to see on their prayer card, what they're going to see in the experience. So the visual identity of what happens digitally matches the physical experience that they have. So as we look at each of the different covenant nights, these are branded in a really different way. Anything that is signature, as Father Tom said, to 2 parishes is blue. But this is really not Catholic looking intentionally. So we run paid ad placements and campaigns at the beginning of the year, because we know that 11% of people make a New Year's resolution that they're going to pray more. So we run social campaigns in January, and then in Lent, and then heading into Advent, and kind of with some of the back to school faith formation stuff that happens. It's like, and here's another way to get involved in faith community for adults. As far as what the weekly e-news looks like, sorry, I got in the weeds on that. As you can tell, I love the data and being able to kind of segment that out. We have what we call community connectedness. They would get a quarterly e-news about here's more social stuff that's happening. This is kind of the big net, big funnel. And then hopefully they'll come to Celtic Christmas and then have a more experiential time. So then we roll them into the people we talk to each week. And that's everybody from St. James the Greater, everybody from Epiphany of our Lord, and then the community as a whole. So that really looks like, here's a draft of last week's e-news. So we begin with, we don't have a letter from the pastor that covers every chapter and verse. We are intentionally focusing on prayer this year. And in focusing on prayer, it's not just asking people in the parish to pray, it's how we as a staff are praying for you. So Father Tom's letter each week is his prayer for that week. And that's it. And it's easy to think that it's easy to fall into the, oh, well, I should talk about this and I should focus in on this. That's in a different section he prepares and then provides in print for the bulletin, or in the announcements, or in what we know we're going to talk about in the weekend. But it's just a prayer, and that's it. Then we focus in on what the next most important thing is spiritually, and typically that's going to be a liturgical season. And so we focus in on Lent. So we focus in on, here's the Lenten calendar, and then within what's the next important thing, what do we want people to do? Last week it was come to Ash Wednesday. So Katie, how do we discern that? We want to know what we want people to do what's that call to action and what do we want people to do? It's this week it is, if you do nothing else, come and pray with us on Wednesday. And that gets the next biggest priority. From there, we go chronologically about 10 days out with a little additional information. So, the Bunko Day, the Ladies Auxiliary runs their Bunko, like they run their Bunko and their promotions, um, and have their networks, but we want to be sure that this information is here. Everything that we do is also hyperlinked out back to the website. So we have information like the phone number to call to make your reservations. That's where most of our ladies are going to make those reservations, but it will always link back out to the website. The CRS Rice Bowl project is going to take people out to these other places where they can learn more about it. Anything in the Lenten calendar, we want to drive people to the website, and make sure that they have all that information needed. We've got more. Jess Adams joined our team earlier this year and has really been great in helping establish a presence, but then draw families in. So we highlight her as the pastoral associate to put faces with names. And that was actually something that came from our feedback mechanism from the parish is we use the rounding for outcomes methodology. And I can happy to just share a little overview of what that is. Actually, that's on our website. But one of the things people said is, I don't necessarily know who these people are. So in addition to making sure we have photos on the website, in our last stewardship newsletter, we talked about here's people, and then we have our name tags, but here are the people, and then here are their photos. So our rounding for outcomes methodology is here, but once we have that rounding for outcomes methodology, this was the thing that says what can we do to improve? And the thing that came was, I don't know whose people's the faces with the names. So we're starting to put names and faces when stuff is coming from somebody specifically. And then from there, we look ahead about the next 10 days. So we need volunteers for St. Patrick's Day. We have the February stewardship report, and then a call to say you can always find more information on our website. So coming into things like St. Patrick's Day, there are a lot of, we're auctioning off the top of the hill for people in front of church, for people to have as a viewing station for the parade. So having a short call to action here of St. Patrick's Day, he's a mission-minded saint, he's a missionary saint, and then here's more information. Here's the menu for Gus's Pretzels and the pop-up beer booth. The Mass with the Hibernian. So if anybody's local to St. Louis, Sunday, March 16th is pretty much the coolest day ever at St. James the Greater. And then the parade, the corned beef and cabbage. But all of that in the e-news takes us back to our repository of that digital ministry space online. And the same with socials. So everything that we do within the website is optimized for social, so that there is not create a graphic and put it in the bulletin and put it on the website and put it in on social media. You're going to generate it one time, you're going to put it on the website, and then you're going to link to that from all of your other channels. So part of the process.
I'm going to interrupt because we're down to 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we have time for questions.
Yeah.
This is all really, really helpful information, and I know we could keep going for hours probably.
I could,
but we have a question from Mike in the chat, and then so I'm going to have you answer that, and then
absolutely.
And then if others have questions, I just want to make sure we have time for that in the next couple of minutes here.
Absolutely.
So
sorry.
Mike's question was, do you say that the primary audience for your website is external, but parishioners are secondary, since you do link out from Flocknote?
I would say the primary audience is external, the primary traffic is internal. Or the most repeat traffic is internal, meaning parishioners, community members, relaxed religious people. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Thanks. I just thought it was interesting that you said, our website is for people who are seeking, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Liz does a really good job with geofencing and all that stuff. And so she's able to draw people to the website that are not necessarily going to Mass on Sunday and all. And I've discovered that most of the people in the parish know what's going on already, either because they're involved or they have friends involved and everything. And so to cater the website more to the people outside coming in and making it more them, the attractiveness, is much more beneficial than trying to be a catch-all news source for the parish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Joe, I know you're joining us from outside of a parish realm, but do you have just from where you sit, and I know you're sort of managing multi-site in a different capacity. I'm just calling you out. Did you have anything
Yeah,
specific?
so
Tell us about it. Yeah.
yes, I manage mission life for an organization called the Culture Project, which is teams in 5 dioceses serving middle school and high school teens with John Paul II's theology of the body, while living in intentional community. So oversee our management team of those teams and the missionaries themselves. So this would be more of like an internal communication question. I'm dealing with missionaries anywhere from 21 to 25 that have grown up in a vastly different world than I even grew up in. Being, the second oldest person in our organization is wild to me.
You're not
And
that
so
old.
part of that communication hurdles we're struggling with now is um, how the message is received, not so much our ability to have a plan on how we share communications or the timing or what that communication is. Rather recently, we made an organizational shift on whether, with our trainings and communicated those decisions. Had a good rollout model around that. What I've discovered with most of our missionaries is because they have access to information and any and all information, or what they think is all the information at their fingertips, they
Mm-hmm.
have now a sense of a right or a matter of justice, that they know every detail and why our leadership made decisions. And so communicating in an effective way, nonviolent communication that is at that threshold of how much information is enough for mid-level or entry-level positions in an organization to know what's going on, but they don't need to know every behind-the-scenes discussion that the leadership team is considering. So I don't know if there's a question in there
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but I think that's our struggle, is more internal communication across generational
Mm-hmm.
shifts with a variety of maturity and professionalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can see where that creates the situation where on the one hand you have so much buy-in and ownership, that's part of how they demonstrate that ownership, and to see that as caring very loudly at a deep level. um but knowing that there are certain things and certain matters of discernment that happen in different contexts. So I can see that as a struggle for sure.
And I've had another pastor bring that up to me, that he is hired a communication specialist who is fresh out of college, and it's a different type of management experience for
Mm-hmm.
him. How there's just different level of expectation on both sides, and the importance of communication, just interpersonal communication through that, to understand this is why this is a priority to me, and help me understand why this is a priority to you, so that there's clear
Mm-hmm.
expectations from both sides. But I know it can be challenging
Yeah,
sometimes.
and Joe, there's a great quote that I come back to over and over and over and over again, from Marshall McLuhan, where he talks about, the church leadership as a bureaucratic figure is fully obsolete, but the church leadership in playing roles are more important than ever, and in management roles are more than ever. But he says specifically, you can't have goals in an acoustic and non-visual world. People want roles, they don't want goals. So in fully inhabiting that role of missionary or entry level, part of I truly think that a lot of young people who are on fire and have a passion for serving the church come to that level of questioning and discernment because they grew up in a world where it was pay, pray, and obey, or they grew up and they saw what sort of they saw what their parents did, or maybe what their prior generations did, and there is they see where that lack of questioning leads us as a church and as a world. They see what that don't bother father does to a church and to a world. And so to take an active missionary discipleship role, that intensive questioning is stepping more fully into that role in a way that might, to pastors or church management, be like, what the heck are you doing? That's not a priority. Like, you don't need to know that decision. They don't want to be responsible for just participating in the continued collapse of bureaucracy. They want to make a difference. And so I think there might be an opportunity to sort of see that as, like I said, caring deeply and loudly.
Well, thank you for that, Liz, and Joe for the comment. We are at 11:02 Central Time, and so we're at our hour break. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. But I just want to say thank you to Liz and Father Tom for your time today and sharing with us some of your learnings and best practices from your experiences at your parishes. And we will come again together next month. It'll be April 4th, so first Friday of each month, and we'll be exploring new topics and sending out information very soon at the conclusion. And I know we'll also be sending out recap from today's conversation with some of the resources that Liz mentioned throughout her dialogue with us. So thank you all for being with us today. I hope you have a blessed Friday and a wonderful weekend and a happy St. Patrick's Day this month. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.